G'day everybody. Here's one thing that most people need to change collectively so we could heal. We have to sacrifice and prove things. And to do that, to show that you've really changed, is by getting money in a point. What do you mean? Well, a lot of people who are poor and are suffering say we need to change this and this and this. That's why we're poor and suffering. And no one wants to listen to them because they're poor and the poor can't do nothing. But if the rich are suffering and that, then they'll want to listen to themselves because they're suffering. Isn't that right? But they're not. The rich are never suffering. They've got the money, and that's how the world rolls around. So if you've got money, you can always get someone else to do it or pay more. You don't suffer. Definitely, you've got a lot of it, this 1% rich population. And out of this 1% rich population, you might have, in my factor, 10% that might try to help things and then spend all their money, right, and get nowhere. And so that doesn't help to prove a point about being nice to people, right? And to prove a point that if you're rich, everyone can still be nice by being rich. And how I prove that point is by, like when I explained to Emma that day about the helicopter ride thing. Everyone wants to, help the planet with the air and that. And the best way to do that is to start somewhere. And the best way to start somewhere is to not do things you don't really need to do, like going for a helicopter ride just for fun of it, or for a trip when you can take it, you can get there in another spot. It's not a big emergency unless you make it like someone says, I have to be there tomorrow, right? I guess you need to in that kind of way because things got made to happen. But technically you don't. Back in the old days, they waited months for people to get there because they were on horses. And I'm not saying to go back and do that. I'm just saying there's other ways to do things. And you could get in a plane more loaded, maybe loading up more things and lots of things. But anyway, I don't want to get into all that. My point is, when it comes to people say things, and they want to change, but then when you throw it at them, well, you want a better environment and all that, and you agree with that, and you go, yeah, but then we need people all to show a point. Everyone needs to do it, and they've got to be able to be talked to and go, yeah, and then even go through the test where someone goes, well, come on then, you said you won't do this now, but I've got someone right now who can give you a helicopter ride to do these tests on these people. And then if they go, yeah, all right, we'll see how I'm going to go on it, then they've failed because they're just as bad as the 1%ers. They didn't go because they couldn't go. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm good for the environment. And I can easily say it because I don't go on helicopter rides. Like people could easily say to me, well, he's not driving a car around at the moment because he can't. So I can't prove the point about being right with the fuel, which is what I want to do soon, is prove the point about how we can get to certain areas. Like, as soon as I can drive again, my main goal is to drive not much at all unless it's very necessary. So I won't be going on my fun drives anymore until I can work out. I'll do work to get money up because that's what we all need. So I can convert my car so I can drive around more. So my goal will be to get some money up so I can get an electric engine or an engine that uses different fuel or something like that, or an engine that runs off air that I was talking about, so I can get around because I do want to get around. We all like to travel, but I don't want to. I need to set an example and don't want to do anything that where people go, well, you're not doing what you say you do. So if I got my license now, I'd have to only go to the shop once a week. I'd change a lot of things. I wouldn't do what I used to do many years ago because I've only recently changed my rules in the last 3 to 2 years to one. I'm still tweaking them to change my new me, but I'm trying to 100% stick to what I'm saying, and that's what rich people can do. Is we all start sticking to what we're saying and try our best because it is hard to break habits. But every time, if you really want to change, every time you screw up, you go, yes, I was wrong. You admit it and you move on. You don't try to ignore it or deny it. Otherwise, the change will never happen, will it? So if you have got no point of why you're not doing what you're doing, then you should be stopping if someone else has got a better point of why you should be not doing what you're doing. So I thought I'll chuck that out because it gives you proves to people. I've done that to lots of people where you go, they say something and then you go, so you're not really, are you? And they go, yeah, like I'm not going on a helicopter right now. But then you go, well, will you take one if I go give you one right now? And if they say yes, then they're just as bad as everyone else, isn't it? They end up getting in the same boat. And that's why I was talking about the earthquake thing earlier too, about everyone just like copying and getting in the same boat when it's hard to give sympathy. See, if you're an alien looking down, use an alien's point of view, looking down, and it's got its cities right. They've got common sense worked down to a T in their government system. So they got when they have earthquake, it just shakes around and it's very minimal. And every time they've had an earthquake, they sort it out. So they got to the point where that nothing happens. You can sort out things where you'll get the very minimal, not like everything will always be perfect, but you can get it right down to the very small minimal of how you want it. But if you keep getting a problem like buildings falling down, and you know an earthquake's going to come, you know this is going to happen, we know it's going to happen, and you keep building the same thing, but then thinking, oh, maybe later on we might have to change it. That's not the way to think. You should just like, well, can we change it now? And if you can, then do it. Money shouldn't be a thing to make things quicker. Like people go, well, we need to build cheaper so we can have more of them. It's not all about that. Building it quicker. We can all build our own house in a way like the old days. And people used to do that. They used to be able to go to land and build their own house out of their own materials of their land, or get it from trade and stuff like that, and build their own house within a year. Some of them 6 months if it's small, to a couple of years, and then they owned it. They owned it back in the day. People used to own homes way quicker than people can today. There's something wrong there, isn't it? When things are meant to be quicker and better, but we have a problem when it comes to homes. Not only they're expensive, but people are hard to pay off a home now because not they're only spending all their time in building a home like in the old days. They work now and they've got other materials. They go out and that costs money when they go out a lot. They're not just staying at home or going to see their neighbour and having a meal and chat. They're actually going out and using some of their hard-earned money to go out. And if your hard-earned money is not earned as good as where you go, you're not going to get anywhere, because a lot of people get paid the same as where you're going, and those people can't go out because every hour, it costs you, like, say if I was working now and you're getting $50 an hour, right? It's 2 hours to go have a half an hour lunch. So you got to work way more than what you spend. But then there's some people out there that get a grand in an hour so they can go have a lunch and have many lunches, right? And so that's not right when it comes to that, is it? That the pay is way off. And I'm not saying people's pay shouldn't be different. Is all I'm mentioning about is when it comes to pays, they are, a lot of them, way off and unfair. And when it comes to the standard, I reckon we should have at least a standard pay where people will get the food costs down. So where at least people can go, you could be a worker, you can pay off a home, you can pay off a little bit of a credit card, right? This is what a pay should be like. An average home should be able to be paid off, should be able to pay off a credit card if you needed to get a credit card for all your little bonuses, a small one, and you should be able to pay for your food and able to have savings. So you shouldn't even really need a credit card. But I'm just saying, for some people who went a little bit too far, they might be able to get a small one to fix things up. But you should be able to do that every now and then till you pay off your credit card, get rid of your emergencies, like if someone got really sick or something that costs a lot of money. And people should be able to live off their wages every week and be able to go out every week, every day if they want to, and still able to have money. And if they don't go out, they can even have even a little bit more money. You know what I mean? It's all about sacrifice. But people used to be able to do that back in the old days, and they can't now. And why is that? We had a pretty good selection back in the 50s and 60s. There's not much different selection now, but no one can live. And we hear about all the inflation and all these rules. Is it all too many rules? It is, isn't it? But anyway, all I love to do is, I can't wait till a country gets their shit together and does everything right and stands up for it, like we're all starting to hear a little bit now today because of COVID, starting to make a lot of people wake up on things. But you got to get serious. And don't worry about talking about the small things. A lot of things that people talk about, and I hear about them even in little arguments, and then I'm not saying these arguments aren't meant to be fixed, but a lot of these little small arguments and things that can be fixed, you can actually, if you go higher, you don't not only fix that argument, but fix a lot of things by just going a little bit higher and talking about and arguing about things that are just a little bit more higher, that can fix more problems than just one problem. Like when I heard that they're going to spend 500 million on trying to keep the cats inside, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's what I heard. And if I'm right, let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, because I was listening and doing a few things, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. I heard they're going to spend $500 million on helping cats keep inside because cats kill birds in nature, which is true. But I don't see how giving the government giving out money to I don't know which places, I guess, people to keep cats inside or something like that. But what they really just need to do is maybe just make some ads and get the teachers at school to promote to keep the kids inside, and just tell the people to keep the cats inside. And it's up to us collectively to help the environment, because that's what we're all doing. We the government are doing it, and yous are doing it, and just to make sure you have enough money to get that word out, really. And I don't see how 500 million would need that. You could probably get that word out with an ad, and the ads should do it pretty cheaply too for the government, please. As we're the government and we're trying to do everything like ads that for everybody, from the government to everybody, shouldn't even have to be paid for from the people. The TV companies are already transmitting, so technically it costs them nothing, and things like that. I would try to promote as a leader of the government to let these companies make that as a promo, right? Because we will give you benefits in other ways, and companies need to pay back a little bit more instead of having these ridiculous amount of money, knowing that the government needs to do an ad and then they think they can charge a lot of money, and charge even the normal people, knowing that the government will come in. See, when you have a government that's guaranteed to pay them because they want an ad, you'll have these private companies up and in the price because they can live off the government if they charge very expensive prices, which is what they do. If you hear about like O'Brien, no one goes to O'Brien. This is what I heard, get my window replaced, because they deal with more insurance companies and they're very expensive. See, when you hear people go, they deal with more insurance companies, if you know this tactic and research a bit, is because they know insurance companies pay out really twice as much as other places and stuff like that, so they don't care if they're not getting so busy. They just want it from the insurance companies so they can charge as much as they want because they're going to pay for it. You understand? And they've been picked, and that's what they're going to pay for. And it's all these little loopholes what people use to all try to get more and more money. The insurance company trying to save money, and these people want more money. Everyone wants more money, and it just becomes everyone ripping off everyone. And the only way to stop that is the government has to stop it. The government has to step in when it comes to a lot of private things and electricity and stuff like that. And it has to be government run. Back in the old days, the government used to do that more, even right back in the ancient days where the government more ran the water and stuff like that. And people would say that was more the control. And it's why we have more private now to stop the government from controlling so much. But when we go private, the people do the same thing, like I was talking about with, well, you think you won't do it, but when you get the opportunity, you're doing the same thing. And that's what the people are doing now. They're getting the same thing as the government. They think they can buy water and then they own it. And now they're doing what the government's doing. Two wrongs don't make a right. And all you can do is you have to trust the government when you come to a collective system. Is the best way and more efficient way. That's why China is getting so far. I'm not saying they're doing it right. Is that the government makes everything happen, and we need to get more like that collectively too, and just do it more right than what China's doing, in my opinion. Have a good one, everyone, and see ya.